Welcome to Below the Line, where we talk about working in Hollywood from the crew perspective. My name is Skid. I'm a former assistant director and your host.
Quiet on the set.
Today we're talking about It, Welcome to Derry, the 8-episode television series that streamed and is currently available on HBO Max. And my guest is film editor Esther Sokolow. Esther, welcome to Below the Line.
Thank you for having me.
Excited to talk about this show. Also with us in the co-host chair this week is Gianni Damaia. Gianni, I'm glad you could join us for this one.
Always happy to be here, especially to talk about It. Welcome to Derry.
A warning for listeners, today's conversation will contain spoilers. However, we're going to focus exclusively on the pilot episode. We have clips to share, courtesy of HBO, so we're going to spoil the shit out of episode 1, but we'll avoid any plot spoilers for the rest of the season. Esther, to start us off, tell us how this series lines up with the It films, chapters 1 and 2, which were released in 2017 and 2019, and how you got involved with this project.
Yeah, well, thank you. So the It Welcome to Derry is a prequel series. From the films, we know Pennywise appears every 27 years, and the films focus on the Losers Club as children and then 27 years later as adults. And that story initially felt self-contained. Those are the stories of the book. But in the books, Stephen King often alluded to the past, Pennywise's previous incarnations 27 years prior and subsequently along in the past in these interlude chapters. And so after the films ended, Andy started thinking about ways to go back and tell more of the story from those little snippets and textures. So It Welcome to Derry is a prequel series set in 1962, so 27 years before the events of It Chapter 1. And for myself, I was not part of It Chapter 1, but I joined the team on It Chapter 2. My initial career was as an assistant editor in feature films. I worked on a film called Rampage at New Line Cinema, and our post-producer, Darren Reed, was also a post-producer on the first It film. And so Rampage happened in between Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. And Darren and I formed a really great connection, and he played matchmaker. And he told Jason Ballantyne, who was the editor of It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, that he thought we'd be a really good match together. So I met with Jason and joined the film as first assistant editor. And that's how I joined the It world, how Andy and I got to know each other, Andy and Barbara Muschietti. And it's been a great match ever since.
You edited this pilot, obviously, that we're about to talk about. And what other episodes of the season did you edit?
So I edited episodes 1, 2, and 6, and then I shared a co-edit credit on episode 4 with the 2 other editors of the season. That episode was primarily Glenn Garland's episode, and then Matt Colonna and I both shared sequences in that, so we all shared that credit.
We're going to jump in. This first clip comes from early in the episode. Esther, is there anything you'd like to say to set it up before I hit play on this?
Ooh, I love this sequence. It's really fun in a pilot to kick off and have the task of introducing a character to the audiences, have you empathize with them and get to know them, and then be afraid for them, all within a span of 10 minutes. So this sequence, we have just met Matty Clemens. He's a small, shy boy. He's got a bruised eye. We see him. He's snuck into a movie theater to watch The Music Man. He's about 11, 12 years old, and he's sucking on a pacifier. And it's really sad because somebody that age should have probably outgrown having a pacifier. And so you really get the sense that this is somebody who maybe doesn't have the best home life. They have to self-soothe. He has to self-soothe himself. And he wants to run away from home. It's snowing, it's cold, and he sticks his thumb out, and a really nice family stops to pick him up. And he says, I'd like to go anywhere but Derry. And so they drive past the Derry sign, and things start to get a little weird, a little uncomfortable. So this is the moment where they have already driven past the sign away from Derry. Now they are driving past through. It's the first indication that he
Your father
maybe
got
is not safe in this car.
right after he impregnated
This
me
young
again.
boy that he's sitting next to is spelling words, and the words start out normal, and then they are suddenly not normal words for a kid of this age to be spelling.
Kidnapping. There's a gas station up ahead, and I have to pee. Mike, if we could just pull over even for a second. Cadaver. Strangulation.
Strangulation. Very unnormal word for a child to start spelling. That's the first moment that the mom looks dead at camera. Very uncomfortable to have her staring straight at you.
O-U-T. Let me out! O-U-T. O-U-T. O-U-T.
I'll handle it, Raymond, son.
O-U-T.
This is where it really gets nice family car ride vibes. Right around here.
That's what I was hoping for. I really loved playing with the OUTs versus the weird lyrical song on the radio. La 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 la. Nice creepy eyes.
And it's supposed to be reminiscent of like the opening theme song as well, correct?
Yeah, that's specifically when the pacifier falls out of the car, and we'll get to that. But yes, that has the oranges and lemons nursery rhyme.
We should probably say a warning that this one's not safe for work. But this is straight from the episode, so hopefully you've watched it and you know what they're getting into.
I'm confused. It was safe for my work.
This is my favorite character right here.
Come here. Go meet your family, sweetheart.
Our mutant bat baby with two heads and two voices. One voice is forwards, one voice is backwards. You've got like a weird voice playing off of each other. Double fake out. Face only a mother could love. So there, that pacifier goes back in his mouth. Maybe that'll help.
Here's the pacifiers we mentioned.
That's when the Oranges and Lemons theme song starts to kick in, that iconic tune that you know from the films. Pennywise is near.
All right. To be clear, when I first saw this scene, I was just like, what the fuck? What the fuck? What the fuck? This whole, just, Esther, I think that's what you are going for, but the idea to start the build the dread, it went to a level of horror that honestly I found unexpected. Talk to us about this scene coming together, how it was done, and what you had to work with.
Yeah. So this scene went through many, many evolutions, both creatively and editorially, to achieve it. So because the sequence takes place in a car, in a station wagon with 5 actors, 3 of whom are minors, the way that we had to design the shoot is, or the way that it made most sense to achieve it with the maximum amount of flexibility with performance and editorial freedom, was to shoot on a volume wall, which is where they put the car and the actors in the center of a space, and all of the imagery of what's driving past the car is projected on a sequence, as opposed to putting blue screen and doing one of those classic figure it out in post. And one of the reasons that would have been very difficult for us creatively is it's such a long sequence, and that would have meant that every single cut would be a visual effect shot. And then I wouldn't have the freedom of rhythmically pacing up the sequence, because you would have to be very considerate of how many cuts cause a new VFX shot. So it's happening during winter, it's happening, there's snow outside. And then they transition from a snowy space to a gas station to the orange spill of downtown Derry and then to the bridge with the river. Each of those are disparate locations. So we filmed Maddie walking, the sequence that we didn't play, we saw him walking with his pacifier and the car picks him up. That was actually filmed in the dead of winter in December in outside of Toronto in 2025. And then that same night, we filmed a whole bunch of 360 driving plates. So that's where they take a car with a rig on the top of it and they drive the length of those roads. So we had a massive amount of footage of what that road, driving past the sign, what it would have looked like at that same weather time. And then driving through downtown Derry, driving through the river area, driving past the gas station. And then when they came back to post, all of that had to be conceived for how long do I think the rhythm of the sequence is going to take? How long are they going to take to perform the scene? So I had storyboards, my assistant editor, Jamie Gaddy, and I temped all the voices so that I could build a sound bed for how long we thought the actors would need the driving plates to last, and also give Andy the freedom of, resetting, having, you want to run the scene from the top, but what if he wants a line just to go again and again and again? So all of that got built driving plates first. Then for the Bat Baby sequence at the end, that was previs. That had to be very carefully blocked. How do we want that action to happen? And then when all of that was prepped, then we went to Toronto. Because it was such a complicated sequence, I actually went on set to cut that live on set. So I had a consolidated hard drive that had my storyboard edits, the previs edits, and then I was cutting live on set with the video tap material coming to me, dropping those in and cutting as we were going. So we could make sure that, the few days that we had to shoot, it was even achievable in that time frame. And then because of the constraints with working with child actors, you want to be very, very protective of their time. You can't overwork them. You want to make sure that everything is safeguarded for them and that the environment is, appropriate. So we filmed all of their coverage with the adult actors, but then you save the adult performances, their singles and close-ups, for after you've wrapped the children. But because so much of that sequence is this sing-song, everyone shouting OUT together in this ensemble, what I found while cutting live on set was that the rhythm when they were all together matched, but when the adult coverage was them alone, they did their own cadence that didn't quite match the rhythm that they had all done collectively. So the very first thing that I did when we got back to the cutting room was say, we know we have the footage. We know that the sequence works as a whole. I'm going to cut it just as a sound bed. So I threw everything out and I just rebuilt it audio bed from the ground up and then layered in performance and picture to build that out as a whole. Because with that sequence, you want it to be so rhythmic, so driving and this like escalating staircase of ratcheting up the tension. So sound plays such a integral part in that. And I wanted to make sure that we had that dialed in to perfection.
Okay, the second clip we're going to discuss takes place in the theater towards the end of the episode, when the kids are watching The Music Man. Esther, talk to us about this scene and how it ties back to the beginning.
The episode begins with Maddie watching The Music Man, and it being a source of nostalgia. It lets the audience know the era that we're in. It's got this quaint charm to it. It's a film that is beloved by everyone. I grew up watching that film, so it has a very comforting feeling instinctually for audiences. But when we return to the theater, the kids are trying to figure out how to locate Maddie. They've heard voices in the drain singing this song. Maybe they can go watch The Music Man and figure out a clue. And they come to the theater. Ronnie, who's the daughter of the projectionist, who we met at the beginning of the episode, she's feeding The Music Man through the projector, and the kids are all in the theater watching. And when the film starts, it starts, in the middle, and there is Maddie on screen holding a baby wrapped in a blanket, and the family from the station wagon is in the film with him. And all of a sudden the kids realize, hold on, this is not normal. This is not natural. Something is horribly wrong. They react in shock, and Maddie looks at them, and Maddie starts walking towards them and starts talking to them. Things are not normal, not comfortable. And the Music Man that we know and love, the song starts warping and distorting and glitching. And then Maddie holds out his hands and the baby bursts through the screen. Chaos ensues.
The setup is not even the worst of what this scene is going to do to our unsuspecting audience.
Yeah. It's a giant mutant bat baby.
Oh my god, this is so fucked up.
They're gonna be fine, don't worry about it. Oh, well, not Teddy. There goes Teddy.
The choice of keeping it with her POV the whole time, though, I think is the smartest thing about this scene.
Thank you.
It really locks in.
It's so important for these scares that it's not just scary for the audience. Like, you need to anchor it emotionally in a character, and Lilly is our through line through this sequence, you know, because what she's experiencing is horrifying to her, it's horrifying to us. And poor Ronnie is doing everything she can to escape. Susie will be fine, don't worry.
Give me your hand.
Talk to us about this scene and what you're trying to achieve with this, Esther.
Well, I mean, basically, in the pilot, we wanted audience to feel initially the shock of the cold open, the station wagon sequence, that is the inciting incident for our losers club. Then we meet the kids. They're trying to figure out the mystery of Maddie. They're going to solve it. You can't tell the adults because nobody will believe us, so it's got to be the kids. And then when the Music Man sequence happens at the theater, and we have the theater massacre, it has to be even more horrifying than the station wagon, because what is actually happening for audiences is the rug pull of the station wagon was not the inciting incident. This is the inciting incident. This has to be even more brutal, even more horrific. And really, for audiences, for fans of It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2, this is going to be the first time that audiences have seen Pennywise win in a massive fashion. Like, in It Chapter 1 and 2, you obviously know that he's killed lots of kids. You see the tower of, their carcasses in his lair. But this is the first time where you realize that Pennywise, in previous incarnations that you've seen him in, has been holding back. He's been playing with his food, and this is him gorging on his meal. Like, there is playfulness in this. We're having fun with the audiences. We're toying with when something's going to happen or not. But Pennywise is incredibly powerful, and if he wants to kill you, he can very, very quickly. So one of the ways editorially that we wanted to elongate this sequence was by ping-ponging with who we were going to be at any given point. So we had Ronnie in the projector booth. So there was a version of this sequence we conceived with not ever seeing what was going to happen. What would the scene feel like if the baby surged towards them, but then Ronnie's in the booth and doesn't see what's happening, and she's trying to get out. Pennywise is knocking the shades closed, the door is locked, she's trying to break out. There was a version of that sequence where you didn't know who was going to live or die, and you were living with Ronnie's perspective entirely. And that was a version of the sequence that was very effective, but it wasn't, you talked about how powerful it felt for you to anchor it in Lily's POV. Lilly has been the beating heart of this episode, and so seeing the kills from her perspective became really clear to us in the edit how important that was. And so we actually did a couple of pickups of her close-ups so that we could anchor the sequence more earnestly in what she was experiencing. We had reaction shots of Lilly from other episodes as placeholders, and we would, we're timing out the sequence, how it would feel, what coverage we wanted, when we saw her dip down under the seats, when we saw her looking at Susie crawling towards us. And one of the things that Andy and I actually came up with in the edit before he went and shot his pickups of Lilly, Susie's crawling towards her and Lilly is reaching at her hand. There's many different versions of a line that she could say in that moment. She could say, "Take my hand," like crawl closer, like you're so close, like I've got you. But Pennywise likes to play with his food. So what we thought the best line for Lilly to possibly say in this moment was, "Susie, give me your hand." Because she did.
You guys are fucked up. You need some serious help.
I know.
That's crazy. No, it's a testament though, because it really is the smartest choice.
You shared with us earlier that the massacre was originally plotted for episode 2. Talk to us about the decisions to move things towards the first episode, or what other sort of dominoes there were from that decision.
Yeah, well, so because we filmed the season out of order, there's editing, as many people have said, I'm not the first one, but editing is the final rewrite. That there's the version of the story that you conceive of on the script level, there's the version of the story that you shoot, and then there's the version as you start putting the puzzle pieces together, the story reveals itself as what is the strongest version and the most resonant for audiences. So initially, there was this feeling that, you end with this big question of like, Ronnie didn't see what happened. And a big plot point of later episodes is Ronnie saying like, "Lilly, you have to go to the cops. You have to tell them what you saw because I didn't see anything." So there was this feeling of anchoring the audience in Ronnie's perspective of like, I didn't see what happened. But what revealed itself is that if you don't show the massacre, there will be those questions of, did it really happen? Was it a dream? If we only ever saw it in a flashback, I can't question the authenticity of it. And then there was also what I already said of that gut punch that you need to have for audiences, that you owe audiences of like, this isn't a smaller scale, shadow of the movies. This is its own thing, its own story, and we have no shackles on. This is HBO. We have been given carte blanche to shock audiences, to push the envelope as far as we can. And you owe it to the fans of this character and this franchise to go 150%. And so if you withhold stuff from that first episode, it's not fair. We owed it to the story and to the characters and to the fans of everything to put it into the pilot. And then it was clear that it was the best version.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was something else that you had said too that I think is really interesting, that you bookend the episode with these two sequences specifically, is because you were talking about the Maddie sequence at the beginning, and the pacifier as being like this sort of like safe haven, and then we throw the pacifier out the window, and how that speaks to like some sort of a larger metaphor about what we're actually doing to that character as well. And then this sequence being really set within the confines of the Music Man as being a safe haven that then is broached and sort of perverted by this horrible massacre. When you go into the editing room, do you have these thematic ideas in mind when you're trying to anchor these specific scenes, or is it really just like a go with the flow and then the story just comes together naturally, and then in retrospect you're able to look at it and be like, oh wow, I'm attributing all these different thematic connections to it? What's the process or the line there? The
process is very cerebral, and it very much is the first thing that you said. My philosophy in editing is very much character first. Who are these characters? Who are their fears? What makes you as an audience member resonate with them? What makes you care about them? Something scary is only earned when you empathize, when you care about the people in danger. So you have to build that emotional through line first. And when we talk about Pennywise as a symbol of fear, it is at its core, and as Stephen King intended, is allegorical. Pennywise is a scapegoat for our human nature. Like, what is the root origin of fear? And one of the, beautiful and tragic things about setting this season in 1962 is, and anchoring it in the journey of the Hanlon family, this Black family that moves to Derry, Maine, is this is a time of deep racism, and Derry, Pennywise's presence in Derry creates this fog, this hostility, the underbelly of hatred. But really that can be mirrored in so many towns across America. So there's very much a philosophical way in approaching the footage and approaching the scares and approaching how we connect to characters. And that happens on every department level. We talk about, in the costume design, in the hair and makeup, like Ronnie, her mother died in childbirth. He doesn't have, a strong support system who can, help care for her in so many ways. Her father is very focused on trying to survive in this environment that requires him to really smother his Blackness. And in ways it means that she has to, try and hide who she is. And I
did want to talk about, there was this moment when you were describing, and I don't know if you wanted to show a clip for this or not, Skid, so you can edit this out if this is no good. But the Music Man, and actually putting Maddie and the Carr family in the actual scene itself. Did you guys Forrest Gump it, or is that, or is it just a totally different shot?
We had a wonderful relationship with the team who had the Music Man assets, who gave us the clearance for it. So we got the original film scans for the Music Man, then, which included, we had clean plates of that environment, the gazebo, which actually was filmed on the Warner Brothers lot, and we were cutting on the Warner Brothers lot. So my assistant Jamie and I would sometimes go to the gazebo and just go, trouble, just for the fun of it. But that's a total aside. So we had the original Music Man sequence, but then we did do a blue screen shoot with the family, with Maddie, with a bunch of extras, all doing the hand and the song gestures, Maddie walking forwards. And then that was VFX'd into the Music Man sequence, which then was reprocessed on film. And then when we went back to the theater to film the sequence with the children, that was projected live in the room, in the theater for them. So they were acting against that footage. And Andy and I cut the Music Man sequence with Maddie as he's holding the baby. We wanted Maddie to have this inhuman quality to him. It obviously is not really Maddie, it is Pennywise's incarnation of Maddie. And Pennywise can take human form, but he takes a perverse version of human form. So movements shouldn't feel natural. So there were some speed ramps, there were some drops frames, there were versions where Maddie would do a head tilt. All of that was little editing tricks, frame dropping, speed ramps that Andy and I did together. And then all of that was baked in so that it wasn't, we pre-anticipated how we wanted that to feel. And then it wasn't visual effects, we shot it practically. So, and then the kids, emotionally, they're acting against Maddie. Like, Maddie's in the room saying to them, like, it was you're the reason I'm here. And then the fear, the terror of seeing a larger than life Maddie on screen distorting in the ways that we had designed it to do. Like, that's, to the kids, it's happening in real life, which is a really, really wonderful thing to be able to capture on camera.
It happening in real time, and correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't that exactly what Andy Muschietti did on It Chapter 1 as well, when they did the slideshow sequence? It was the kids reacting in real time? I
love that projector sequence. I did not work on the first It film, but when I saw that film in theaters, that scene was just the most terrifying sequence. And so when we were working on the editing of that, just the elements that were going into the projector, I went back to that sequence and I studied how Jason and Andy had cut that sequence. because it's a carousel that's like clicking through photos, one of the devices that Jason was able to do was these like sudden drops to black. And I was really curious mathematically about how long those black dropouts were, and whether he played it all with like how fast, how slow, to have those beats. And it was really interesting to see, what he had done was this elongating. So like the black gets longer and longer. And so from an audience perspective, you get this unsettling feeling of like, I don't know when things are going to appear again. But obviously we're in a film environment. You have the film running through sprockets. So we had like a shuttering effect, but you can't really have like blackout, dropout frames because it doesn't, the logic of how it would work doesn't translate. So we played with different degrees of light flicker. That was an added thing. We had flicker baked in on one level, but then we did an added level of flicker on top of the footage afterwards because we really wanted to play with, when you can see things, when you can't see things. But it was a very different rhythm from the carousel sequence.
How much of It Welcome to Derry is comfortable, would you say, in the edit, in identifying itself with It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, versus like a lot of prequel shows would try to be like, this is our own stories, really cement our own claim. But I think what makes It Welcome to Derry so successful is that it feels like the perfect balance. Where do you think that balance is, and how would another editor have approached it differently, if that question makes sense?
That's a really good question. I mean, I have so much love for the films, and I have so much gratitude for the fans who have connected to those films and who came to see the show. You want them to feel of the same world, but you also have the gift in a different medium of changing up the rhythm of how certain things are displayed. So in a feature film, you've got a 2-hour, 2.5, 3-hour runtime. And so you've got a story, you've got a to some degrees brisk version that you have to get through. But in a TV show environment, each episode allows you to linger in certain moments, allows you to connect with characters in other, maybe deeper ways. It allowed us to explore these themes of racism, of hostility in a richer way, I think, than the films had the ability to. But there was also, you want it to feel of the same world. But because it is the past, one of the ways that we made it feel different is through the score feeling older. Like there's theme songs that are connected to the films, and we had Ben Wallfish, our composer, came back to do the score as well for the show. But Andy and Ben talked a lot about the score not being a one-to-one copy. Like maybe Pennywise hasn't fully figured out the musical shape that he wants to live in, so maybe the notes are a little wrong, maybe things are a little backwards. So it still feels the same. It feels like it exists in the space, but you may not be able to put your finger on why it doesn't feel exactly the same. And that's all intentional, and that's all because we got to play in a sandbox that had a different shape.
Esther, yeah, this really, really does come together. We're going to share another clip. This one comes from a middle place in the episode. Viewers, if you were disturbed by the first two clips we shared, this one is not going to be any better. Esther, any setup before we inflict this on our viewers?
So Teddy has been told by Lilly that something horrible has happened to Maddie, that something horrible is happening to her, and he wants to believe her, but Lilly has a reputation of being crazy. She's not a reliable narrator for people, and so he, at dinner with his family, has asked his dad, is it possible to keep a kid underground in the sewers for months and months? Like, is this even based in reality, this possibility that Maddie could still be alive? And his dad tells him it's really devastating and unfortunately true story of the Holocaust, of when prisoners' skin was used to make lampshades. I mean, it is unfortunately one of the darkest experiences in history, and that really is, as a show talking about real life horrors, is something that I think is really, there's a crucial obligation, because you're telling these people are afraid of real life fears. These are real life things that can happen. And so later that evening, Teddy is lying in bed. He's trying to read a comic, and he his light keeps turning off. He's trying to push aside this horrible story his father has told him, and the light keeps turning on, and it is the skin of his mother. So this clip cuts out before one of my favorite lines, but the very next beat is Teddy's older brother opening the door and saying, "I can't believe we're related." And it's a nice little Easter egg for fans of the films, because they will know, obviously, Stan Uris, and Stan Uris's father is the rabbi at the synagogue, and that is Teddy's older brother. So you have met the adult version of that kid in the films.
When you are editing on this show, Welcome to Derry specifically, do you get the whole map out of what the season's going to be in advance? Because how much of it did you have to pay attention to in regards to the foreshadowing? Because there's a lot of different elements that get revealed in later episodes that make those familial connections and ties.
So on a show like this, because the writer's strike, we had some things written and not everything. And so there were versions of where the season was going. I had only read up until episode 6. So I knew, obviously, as a fan of the books, as, knowing that the show was building to the black spot, we knew what the penultimate episode was going to be. But there were a lot of things, a lot of secrets and plot stuff that we didn't fully know about. But that's the beauty of it. You edit based on what the characters feel, based on what you think will be set up later. And then as a collective team, I was always watching my colleagues' cuts, and they were watching mine. And there were things that you realize, like, oh, this person's setting up this thing, and I want to make sure that I set that up appropriately in my episodes, and vice versa. And so there was this very collaborative approach to ensuring, as you go, things that revealed themselves to be more important than you gave them credit for, get reincorporated afterwards.
I'm curious to talk. Unfortunately, I have to talk about the lamp. So you had mentioned before that it is also a practical lamp, which I hope is now burned forever. But which parts of it are practical? Which did you have to incorporate the VFX in? And can you talk about the rolling of the lamp? Because that, to me, is the most unsettling part.
The lamp is entirely practical. So the only thing visual effects, so there was a mouth hole and eye holes. And visual effects, it's like a very 2D kind of effect of like warping the mouth to like vocalize open shut and the eyelids twitching, but the whole build of the lamp is fully practical. We did rolling plates that were Dutching fully clean. We did rolling plates with just the lamp without the shade, and then we did versions with the shade, and then they did a version where they rolled the shade. And Andy is a big fan of doing things both forwards and reverse. and then we'll test in the editing. Sometimes, when you think about a lampshade rolling towards you, you want it to escalate so that the perfect frame is what it comes up to. But sometimes it's easier to achieve the final frame. All right, that's where we want the lamp face to land. And then you actually roll the lamp backwards and then have it disappear. And then in editing, we can reverse that. And so I can't remember which version we ended up with, but we played a lot with which takes we wanted to use, what felt the most resonant. And then we had a reference from his mom, from Teddy's mom, doing the scream, doing the vocalization. So the animation of the lip was matching her actual performance. And yeah.
Esther, that seems like an unnecessary detail to line it up with his mom's actual performance. That's disturbing, Esther. I mean, it delivers. I think these subtle things are throughout the episode, carry through the intent without being, I hate to say it, without putting a lampshade on it. It is, the intent is there, and it all comes through.
Well, I love the details of when audiences will feel uneasy. I love something having rewatchability and there being this new feeling that you can see and learn from each subsequent watch. So like for the lampshade sequence specifically, on your first view, what I imagine your first moment of recoil is when the light switch turns on and you see the face illuminated. One of the textures that I love about that sequence is that we have a practical lamp, normal looking lamp leading up through the scene. But one shot before Teddy pulls the lamp switch cord, you see him look at the lamp a little confused, and it's just this tiny silhouette of the lamp in the corner. It is actually the monster version of the lamp. You see a little bit of the hair, a little bit of the stitching. It's very subliminal. It's not something we're expecting audiences to pick up on the first watch. But the second watch probably. And those are very, when we talk about Andyism, those are textures that Andy has had throughout the films. On It Chapter 2, there's a sequence where a young girl follows a firefly down beneath the bleachers of a baseball game, and Pennywise is lurking in the shadows, and his hands come out of the shadows, grab the firefly. But if you were to rewatch that scene a second time, where you think the jump is the hands coming towards you. But actually, as she's following the firefly, there is a moment very, very briefly where you can see Pennywise crouching. And we didn't hide it in DI. We weren't trying to darken it. We want you, if you're paying attention, to clock it a moment before the scare happens. And I think that's really fun to play with when something should feel scary. And maybe if you don't see Pennywise in the shadow, you still feel the discomfort of, that inherent dread of this isn't going to be all right. And so those little details with the lampshade, when we switch from the regular lampshade to the monstrous lampshade, that's really fun to play around with in editing. And it's fun to create something that has new ways to watch it in subsequent viewings.
We have another clip that I think it may be fair to say that it's the least visually disturbing of the four that we've shared today, although audio-only listeners, you will not be protected from this. Esther, any setup before I hit play on this?
Lilly has been feeling deep sadness and insecurity, a sense of not belonging. She's getting ready for a bath, and she starts reminiscing about maybe the one person who she ever felt really seen and comfortable with. And we go into a flashback from several months prior to when she and Maddie snuck out on New Year's Eve to go to the Standpipe, which is the big, almost like water tower that overlooks the town of Derry. And it's this really sweet sequence where Maddie and Lilly open Cracker Jacks and exchange charms, and then Maddie expresses feelings for Lilly, but Lilly is young and a child and a very uncomfortable with, a relationship changing and, that age of childhood innocence. It's very, confusing to feel wanted. And she shuts him down and he runs away from her embarrassed. And it's heartbreaking because then he disappeared. She never saw him again. And it was this really tragic loss for her that this person who she felt connection to isn't in her life anymore and ended in this fashion. She's feeling all of those emotions, and we return from the flashback to the bathtub running. She's still lost in thought. And then she hears voices from the tub. And it's the voice of Maddie.
Shameless music. Now grab your son, your daughter, with the arms of the jungle. Hannibal instinct.
This is also my worst nightmare, by the way.
Oh, we got you. Right here, remember saying.
The voices grow closer, and they're singing the Trouble song from The Music Man, which
Maddie, is that you?
is what kicked off the first episode.
Where are you?
So did you just put the camera in a PVC pipe, and
Maddie,
then
if it's you,
it just looks that good?
You can hear me. Just come home, all right?
I was not on
Please
set for
come
this.
home.
Those are fun questions I don't know the answers to.
He won't let me.
So, Fingers in a Drain. This is actually an homage to the books. This is a sequence that was described that Stephen King wrote. It's very disturbing, a safe place for a child, and voices in the tubs. And it's obviously a callback to what Beverly Marsh experienced in It Chapter 1, although that goes to a very different degree. And those are... This sequence had an interesting balancing act to do where it needs to be horrifying. It needs to be this first scare for Lilly. But where she goes as character is Maddie's alive and we need to do something about it. We need to go save him. He's in the sewers. A very logical place for a child to be. So it has to be scary, but not so overwhelmingly scary that she can be immobilized in fear. So there's this balancing act. So she gives this incredible scream, this like scream queen level scream of abject terror. But one of the ways that we counteracted it being so horrifying, when, it's, small fingers in a drain, it's not a torrent of blood, but we also made the score overpower and envelop Lily's scream so that we're not telling the audience that this is impossible to overcome. Like, this is going to rally her to action. She is now going to be like, I have to go find people to believe. We're going to, solve and save Maddie's disappearance. So there's a balancing act with that. With the fingers, one of the things that I really enjoy is how to make something feel even more uncomfortable. And we've talked a little bit about Pennywise not having total control over the human body and how he would reveal himself to people. So the fingers in the tub, we actually did some jump frames so that the movement had this added sense of distortion. So like as the fingers like going around, it's like there's like one or two frames dropped in that. And then, we've had one frame going around the rim and then two frames disappearing, but you never see the other finger appear. All of that is meant to make you feel that extra element of discomfort.
I also like, too, that the first time the finger comes out, you almost can't really identify exactly what it is. And then it's not until the two fingers are sort of around the rim, which is just something that I think you play with very delicately in the edit. Was that by design as well? Or, I mean, was there ever a version in which you had the whole hand coming out if they did like a whole open up the thing like they did in the what is it, the 1980 film?
Where he's opening the shower drain. No. This was always meant to be within the realm of plausibility, that somehow it was just Maddie in the sewers, in the drain, and whether that is achievable or not, it's within the realm of Lily's belief that it could be possible. So it had to have that balancing act of still being rooted in plausibility for her.
With Lilly in particular, because she's such a blank slate character, it almost feels as though Pennywise keeps testing the limits just to try to find different ways in to make her actually be so fearful that she won't try to fight against him. Is that like a conscious thing, do you think, that you guys were like toying with, that Pennywise just actually can't quite crack this one? Or is that just like a byproduct of, this is our main character that we've chosen, and therefore it has to sort of unfold the story in this way?
No, I think you're spot on. I mean, Pennywise tries so hard to get Lilly. For Pennywise, part of his relationship to these kids is one of seasoning their fear. The more afraid they are, the better they taste to him. And so I think he finds her mind so susceptible to him, and so he's trying, she's already been proven crazy, let me prey on, who does she have to trust, who does she have to support her? And I think he works so hard to make her the most afraid because it will taste the best to him.
Esther, I feel like you've played with our fears throughout this episode as well, in a way that softening us up for whatever, as far as an audience goes. This is a disturbingly effective episode, and I say that with the highest compliments.
Thank you. I appreciate it. When we were just talking about Lilly, I wanted to talk about when we meet Lilly for the very first time, we have her arriving at the school. You've got this needle drop playing, and the sound distorts. You start hearing whispers of the people looking at her in the hallway. You start hearing the rhythm of the door slamming. And all of that is meant to help you immediately connect with the character of, like, this is somebody shy, insecure, seeking belonging, not receiving it. And also she's hearing these alarming door slams, and she's pushing down her sense of unease. And like, it's all in my head, everything's okay. And in fact, it's not. And that has been, that's her guiding through line for the season of, like, at what point is she going to stop pushing her feelings down that something's wrong and push back? And that's, where she finds her strength and her power.
I also love how much you seem to incorporate music into a lot of what you do. Mm-hmm. Do you find that you are making playlists for the different things that you edit on, or is this just the only one? Okay.
No. I've got playlists and playlists upon everything, and Andy and I are always sending Spotify lists back and forth. And one of the things that's so fun about this era and the tonal language of the It universe is that music and needle drops go hand in hand with the story that we're telling. And the music of the 1960s, 1950s was so fun. So much of that kind of like bubblegum pop era has music that are, that sound really happy, and you listen to the words and there's something really wrong when you really peel back the curtain and study it. And it was really fun to place the music in this show, and fun to place the end credit songs per episode. We had a lot of fun with that.
What would you say is the biggest difference between being an assistant editor and then being a lead editor on a project like this?
Your day-to-day is very different. My role as a first assistant editor on many of these big visual effects heavy films is about the guarantee of, like, my job was, bring the ship into harbor. Like I'm the technical person that makes sure that the wheels on the bus stay on, that everything logistically is happening that needs to happen. But as I was going on in my first assistant career and my relationships were deepening with editors and with Andy, my job became a lot more creative. So on the last couple of projects, I was in the room for every meeting with Jason and Andy. I was, offering creative notes. And so my job kind of was, double purpose of ensuring the technical side was delivering, and also getting to hone my creative voice, but stepping into the editor role and being able to, say, like, it's not my responsibility on the technical side. I've got an amazing assistant editor in Gianni Damaia, and now I can focus in on the full creative. It's very freeing mentally. It's hard to balance both jobs. And, this is my first time stepping fully into the editing chair. And I'll be honest, I was very nervous. If you were to ask me, what was the biggest challenge to overcome, it was my own insecurity that I wasn't going to be ready for this opportunity. but I hadn't given myself enough credit for how much I was already balancing creatively. And so there was actually this moment where it was a relief to like just spend all day creatively in the sandbox with Andy. And it was nice to trust my own voice and intuition and realize that I was more prepared for the moment and ready to meet it than I had given myself credit for.
Are there any Easter eggs, Stephen King, that you or some of the other editors might have just thrown in there as just like a casual mention? They can take it or they leave it, that maybe fans haven't have caught on to, or anything that you think would be fun?
I mean, we just had a lot of fun making this show and making it rich with textures and details. There are fans of the books who, you know, we are not a replacement to the books. We are an opportunity to tell another angle and add textures and answer certain questions that have been mysteries that are from our perspective and whatnot. So it's meant to be additive.
Esther, when you talked about the challenges of this show and some of the concerns you had, what I think is really amazing is the show manages to tie in with the existing lore of the films and the larger lore of Stephen King's universe, and at the same time stand alone and also set up the rest of the season. And I'm curious to what degree the idea of bringing all these together was part of that challenge in your head, and then, well, how you think it turned out.
Well, I'm really proud of it. I think it turned out very well. There's a lot of obligation and intentionality in creating a show of this size and scope and ambition. We didn't take any of that lightly. I have been a fan of the books. I, worked on the film, and I've worked very closely with Andy for years. And even when we were on location, I was listening to the audiobook driving to work. I was watching the films, in the evenings, just reminding myself of the rhythms and the patterns. My playlists were all 1962 and pre-music. I mean, Spotify called me out as the annual rap as like, I've got the music of an 85-year-old, which Andy and I had a really big laugh about. But yeah, I mean, there was so much work and love that went into making this, and you hope that it's enough. You hope that people will feel that level of care and detail that has gone into making it, that it will resonate. But there's always the question of, will it land? Will people come to the table and enjoy the meal that we've prepared for them? So it was really, really special to see fans embrace the show the way they did, and really validating, but also really inspiring to keep going, that amount of effort and care is labor well spent, and probably like not labor at all, because I wouldn't want to do anything else. I love this job, and it just is very inspiring to get to make stories that resonate for people.
Well, what's next for you, Esther?
I don't know if I can say, but I'm hard at work.
Whatever it is.
More to come for sure.
And I hope you'll come back here and talk about it, whatever it was. We've really enjoyed having you on the show. On that note, we're going to call it a wrap. Esther, it was great having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Really, really appreciate it.
Listeners and viewers both, however you're joining us, I always appreciate your feedback. My email address is skid@belowtheline1word.biz. That's B-I-Z. Closing credits, thanks to Curtis Five for our music and John Wan for our logo. The logo is available on t-shirts, mugs, and stickers at redbubble.com. If you've enjoyed the show, please give us a positive rating and tell your friends. Thanks again from Below the Line. One quick note, it is possible that I will extract the multiple spoilers that the two of you dropped for the rest of the season and put them here. So if you are still with us, listeners, and you thought, wait a minute, they didn't spoil anything past the first episode, it is quite possible that's going to happen now. So I just want to set that up as a warning in case that's how it works out in the edit room. But Esther, no surprise to you. Sometimes we move things around. So
all good. It's part of the art. You find the best version of the story to tell. You know what? I do have an Easter egg. I'll give an Easter egg. Dick Halloran. Recurring character.
Just a little known Dick Halloran, one of the most important shining characters.
In episode 2, we go with Lilly to the supermarket. So when Lilly is wandering the aisles of the grocery store and Pennywise is whispering voices before she arrives at the pickle jars, there is a moment where she passes some canned food. And for eagle-eyed viewers, she passes a jar that says calamay. And that is actually a wink and a nod to when Dick Halloran, as an adult, is in The Shining and is in the kitchen storage. There are cans of calamay as well in the background of that. So just little universe through lines and tidbits.
Beautiful. We love a little tie-in. That's great.